I've spent 3 years in this online business space and I finally figured out the trick to making consistent progress all of the time. But there's one condition that I'm going to tell you at the end of this video that you must have, or else none of this is going to work. So, just to give you some context, I first started off jumping from business model to business model with 7 failed businesses, only making a few grand but spending more than that going into 2022 or late 2022. However, going into 2023, I started my own service based business, scaled that to thousands of dollars per month, and continue scaling from there. Now, what I do is I help online service providers build a business that works for them so that way they can simplify their sales process, remove all the confusion, unprofitable, and complicated systems that other gurus try to sell you on, as well as build a business that doesn't have any stress, resistance, or pressure tied to it. Then from there, I also partner with online service-based business owners and I help them get more clients and make them worth more. So I've been in this game, closed hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales, and I understand exactly what it takes to be able to close more. First, what you need to define is what you want and what you're willing to give up for it. For example, today, this was after multiple days of climbing mountains and hiking and running in the hot weather with a little bit of sunburn and tan, as you can see. So, spent time refueling, regenerating, eating food, still hopped on some calls, did some work, even recording this video, but it wasn't to the degree of typical productivity as my other days. Because what you have to understand is that there has to be some sort of time for you to stop. With that said, you have to understand what that is for yourself and what you're willing to give up for it. How do you want to feel? How do you want to operate? And that's going to be done through defining your priority. What is your priority? Is it your business? And how much of it is your business? What are you willing to sacrifice to make it so your business can progress farther? How long are you willing to sacrifice these things, and what are you willing to give up? Maybe I could have drinking 5 energy drinks today and gone crazy. But is that the sort of lifestyle I want to live? I don't think so. So you have to define exactly what you're willing to sacrifice for the business that you're developing so that way you can actually grow it so you can get the things that you want. Next thing is once you've defined what you're willing to sacrifice and for what goal, you have to understand the purpose behind the goal in your business. How you do this is through asking yourself, why do you want to make money? Because everything has another consequence or another order of why it is there in the first place. Just like your actions, there's the first order consequence of you do work and yeah, you spent some time doing it. Maybe you feel a little drained. The second order consequence is maybe you make some money and you get something done. Then the third order consequence is that you make even more money and it continues to compound as long as you let it. But you need to define what is the reason you're going to make money in the first place. Is it for freedom? And I would get very specific. Like in your mind right now, what do you want out of making this money in your business? After you've defined that, flip it and ask yourself, what do you lack today? What do you lack today? What desire are you trying to satisfy for making this money? Because in the future, it'll help you stay consistently working on your business and keeping it as a priority because you understand what desire you're trying to satisfy. However, you're going to go back to your old identity if you don't define what desire you're trying to satisfy right now with making money from your business. Because listen, man, if you don't define what desire that is, then you're going to be stuck up in your old identity. You're not going to be willing to listen to different strategies to be able to improve. And then you're going to constantly be stuck in a cycle of making a few grand a month or a few $100s a month and not understanding what's next. What do I do? And you're going to think you don't have the resources or the capability, so you might spend a few more $1,000s on courses, mentors and coaches without realizing it was all right in front of you and you could just operate from a sense of security and understanding rather than a sense of scarcity and lack. But it's all about becoming aware of who that person is that you need to be and what things do you not want to, or what things do you want to have happen right now. Is it attention? Is it community? Is it love. I don't know what it is for you. You have to figure that out for yourself. Once you figure out how you could satisfy that desire, you have to identify what have you done with your past old identity, which in turn satisfied that desire in a more instantly gratifying way. And then every time that you do that, especially during times where you've dedicated to work, instead you have to flip it on its head and ask yourself, is there a better way I can satisfy this desire? And yes, there is. And this next thing is going to lead me to talking about why you have to actually implement these things, or you won't be able to have that consistent growth at all. And first, let me tell you why these aren't so important. Is because if you can act from a state of just a constant state that you tune into, rather than trying to have different little mental frameworks for every little decision you have to make, it's going to make things way simpler. And what these things are values. Well, how do you define a value? It's just about how you do something. It's not about what you do. So instead of focusing on the strategy that you're trying to implement, focus on how you're going to implement it, so when it comes time to make a decision in your business, you can consciously make it with the understanding that you're acting in alignment with your values rather than acting in alignment with somebody else's. Because that means you can constantly build a business that is right for you rather than building a business based off of outdated strategies or off a different pace. Because if you go faster than the pace that you're meant to go on, what's going to end up happening is that you're going to lose the race altogether.